Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to episode 11 of Correspondent Week. And me and my guest on this one are concerned that this might date very, very quickly. Let me introduce you to our Newcastle United correspondent, Simon Bibby. Site.
Hello, James. Just scrolling through Slack and the Patreon to see if we've signed anyone or left anyone in South Korea.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, not true. Matt Target's not been left behind in South Korea. I did get duped there a little bit. Right, let's get the big news out of the way. Alexander Isak, how you feeling? We should timestamp this. It's Tuesday afternoon.
How am I feeling? Well, I mean, obviously disappointed that it's come to this. But as I think we'll talk about later, there are some like legitimate good news reporters out there, and Craig Hope being one of them. And if you listen to his account of it, it feels like he's kind of been justified to a certain extent in wanting to leave the club. For anyone that doesn't know, the reports are that he was promised a contract extension in better terms in March 2024. Then Paul Mitchell came in just after the whole PSR debacle that saw us sell Anderson and Minte, and then said like we can't afford to pay you that. So he basically has been kicking up a bit of a stink since March 2024. Howe, being the awesome manager that he is, managed to kind of rally him and the team. We won the League Cup, but then you saw afterwards, and this might explain his end of season form. Apparently, he just kind of like down tools a bit. The Arsenal no show, the second to last game of the season, was a bit of a surprise, I think, to even people within the club. And it felt like from that point on, he's kind of him and his agent have signalled their intentions for him to leave. So disappointing. I think we've talked for the last couple of years that we need to make a big sale. I hoped it wouldn't be him, but if it needs to be, I think it feels like this is probably the right time to make the most out of that transfer opportunity.
Do we think then that Isak made Newcastle aware at the end of the season that he wanted to leave, or is this something it feels like it's something that's happened since Ekitike joined Liverpool?
I think it was before. The reports are the first training session, he just basically pulled up after 5 minutes and said he had a groin injury. And then the medical team scanned him and there was nothing there. And then that's what he's been sticking to since, the reason he didn't go on tour. So I believe timing wise, that was before the Ekitike. It must have been. There was rumors that he wanted to leave before, and then the rumors started that we were signing Ekitike, and then obviously he ended up at Liverpool. So I think to be honest, him and his agent have kind of orchestrated this, and they've been thinking about it for the last year or so. Clearly, there's been some like what even is tapping up these days, but there's been some conversations with Liverpool, and he knew that that offer was coming in. He probably knew that Diaz was leaving before any of us did. So it feels like this has been in motion for a while. Bitterly disappointed if he does end up at another Premier League club because it just feels like that's the one thing it felt like with the new ownership that we would be able to avoid doing is having to sell to other Premier League clubs. But I guess that's PSR for you, right?
Mm. Can you foresee any scenario where Isak does play for Newcastle again?
Yeah, I absolutely can. I don't think our ownership group are pushovers. I think if Liverpool don't come up with the money that they want, they won't sell him. So I'd say there's probably a 90% chance he leaves, but Liverpool need to come up with the cash and they need to probably do it up front, given what we've bid for Sesko is allegedly up front as well.
It feels like what happens with Isak is also hindered on what happens with you, right? It feels very clear on the outside that you bid in what you bid for Sesko would not be happening if you thought Isak was going to stay. Is that fair?
Yeah, probably, potentially. I mentioned earlier, there were talks that we were trying to sign Ekitike and Isak and maybe have like a 1 year kind of bridging
Bedded in,
period,
yeah.
which still might happen with Sesko, to be honest. I think from a PSR point of view, I don't know the numbers, but I feel like as long as we made a significant sale the following year, we'd be okay. So I do think there's a small chance that you can stay. The problem is, I think if we did, we'd probably get the end of season Isak, not the middle. And actually, at the start of last season as well, if you think about his form, I think he only scored like 1 in 7. So it felt like there was issues then going into the season, and then Eddie managed to kind of get his head on straight. So if he does stay, I think I think he's an avoid from FPL. It will probably derail the start of our season, and then we'll just rally recoup, and then that'll be him off next year, but for significantly less money.
I mean, from what you said, he can't be an option for FPL even if he joined Liverpool tomorrow, because by the sounds of what you said, he's had no pre-season, mate.
Oh, he's been training out in Sociedad, so no, I just think at this point, especially like for Newcastle, like if you're not trained and you've not put the minutes in pre-season, you haven't done like 60 odd in the Cellar Cup that's coming up next weekend, you're not starting the season for Eddie Howe. So I think there's zero to no chance he starts, maybe off the bench if he's still at Newcastle. The problem is we've got Liverpool game week 2, so
Mm.
that
Yeah,
is a
there is that as well. What's the Newcastle one in rocking up at St James's Park in game week two? Mind you, it would only help the atmosphere, I would suppose. That can go both ways.
yeah, yeah. That
Not
Michael
not that
Owen when
you would
he
have any trouble with an atmosphere on a Monday night against Liverpool as your first home game, by the way.
Oh, that night when Michael Owen came back and he came off the bench for Man U, I think we beat him that night, or at least drew. That was up there with the spiciest St James's Park atmospheres. I think this would be just given kind of where we are competitively, I think it would be even spicier. So I don't know. These sort of things tend to have a way of working themselves out. The transfer window shuts after that game, so like maybe he just kind of doesn't play, and then the transfer happens afterwards. I don't know. The issue is, and it's similar for Wissa, I think, with the links with Brentford, is like no one wants to sell until they've got a replacement in, and we have been notoriously terrible this summer and for the last 4 windows of 3 years maybe of like signing players. So there's no guarantee that even if Liverpool did put the offer in, that we'd be able to like get a player over the line to allow Isak to leave anyway, which is half the problem, I guess.
Do you want Isak to go? You personally?
No, yeah, I mean, I waxed
Is it
lyrical
like an
about him for the last
exception?
three
Because
seasons,
it's interesting. You know my opinion. For me, he's one of the best number nines in the world,
for sure.
unquestionable. And when we kind of broached the subject even like a year ago, it was like I don't think people realize quite what Alexander Isak will need to cost. The first number is a one. There's no doubt about that, and we need to go well in excess of that now. I just wonder about what you've said in the past in terms of principles of players coming into the club of having a no dickhead policy. Has he not acted like one?
He has acted like a dickhead. I think even with the things that I've mentioned about like contract offers and stuff, I think the thing with Isak, you got to remember, or Newcastle fans need to remember, is like I think he's a level above just getting into the Champions League. I think he is that good that he should be trying to win it. And we're not there yet. And we can't be there yet because of the PSR restrictions. So unfortunately, I feel like it was a masterstroke transfer at the time, cost 60 million. If we can get double that, it just irks me that he might be staying in the Premier League. Like if it was Bayern going back to Germany or one of the Spanish clubs, like absolutely fine. But just seeing him in a different Premier League shirt, I think is gonna be a difficult one, particularly Liverpool, because my dad supports them and he'll won't shut up about it if he does go there.
I get that. So with Sesko, time of recording, it's been rumoured at this moment. No sooner have I said to Alex on the Man United Correspondent Week podcast, I think he'll go to Newcastle. Manchester United have now bid. That seems to be fairly official. And the word on the street is that Sesko has agreed personal terms with both Manchester United and yourselves, Simon. So I presume he's going to one or the other.
Not me personally, or else I'd have signed him a week ago if it was up to me. Um,
It's not your money, mate.
the so I don't know if you just don't know what's true and what's not. Like there are so many like blue tick like ITKs out there that like the rumor is that Man U have bid what we initially bid and got rejected by Leipzig. So it's 5 million short, or the way that the money is constructed up front and add-ons doesn't match up to our offer. So I don't know what they're playing at. I mean, I'm not sure if they've even got the money to do that deal, and whether they would need to do it in installments or not. That's the other rumor that's going around. So I have no fucking idea, to be honest, like what's going on with this transfer, any other transfer. It would be obviously good signing for us. I'm happy to talk about him as long as you like caveat it with like he might end up at Man U. So
Well, I think we have. We can only tell it truthfully as it is. That's the situation at the moment. That it now probably. I still
yeah,
think he's going to go to you. is my instinct,
We
but
are
not
desperate
not as
for him.
strongly as I literally did 2 hours ago.
I think he would. I think if you look at what the options out there, he's the perfect profile for us. 22, which is what Isak was when we signed him. If you look at like his just his general kind of like technical ability, he can sort of drop in deep, dribble, drive with the ball, just like Isak. I don't think he's got like the creative football brain, but then he comes with more of that physical prowess, like incredible leaper, great header of the ball. Isak is can be. He's got it in his locker, but that's not his game to get on the end of crosses. And like we've signed Elanga now, so you think like having someone that wants that ball pumped into the 6 yard box and get on the end of it is going to be an advantage to us. So he's still raw, he's still unproven. I think that's why the rumours of him plus Wissa would be ideal. And I think if we ended up selling Isak and getting those two in, I think that is, given everything else that's going on and his injury record, it's probably a net positive if we can get both those deals over the line.
This is the thing, isn't it? You would want in a forward anyway, with obviously Callum Wilson leaving this summer. So
I did say he'd go to West Ham about three
you
years
did
ago.
actually, you did. It's no surprise, at least for West Ham fans, he won't score against them now. Well, he might, maybe. Um, I guess now you need two forwards now, right? It's got to be
Mate, we
really.
need our squad is so thin.
Right. So
It's insane.
where in terms of depth concerns, where's the big depth concern specifically? Because I think the thing is as well, 2 years ago you got in the Champions League, as you've obviously done again, and you got crippled, right? 'Cause you hit injuries, the midweek games as well. Last year's situation was better, but you didn't have to deal with that. Although it's worth saying,
Mhm.
obviously, you went all the way in the Carabao Cup. But your team looks great if everyone's available and if you've got a new number nine. But it's when you start taking the layers away, the concern really happens, and you need some layers. So where's the biggest concerns outside of obviously the obvious number nine?
Everywhere apart from goalkeeper, because we've got seven of them, and we've got four very competent wingers. Everywhere else, literally, centre back. Botman, unfortunately, I'm not sure if he's ever going to be the player he was that we signed, given his knee injury. He's it's quite common after ACLs to get these kind of little ones, but he can't really be relied upon to be our first choice left back. So you've got him and Burn there. Straight off the bat as an FPL pick, I think Burn's probably in line to play the most minutes out of all our centre backs currently, out of the four. I had a look at the C bit as well for him, and it's all right, but could be an option there. So like that, Schar's another year older. I don't know if the Gahey thing will happen. Potentially, I feel like we will go back in for him, but whether he's just going to wind his contract down or is waiting for Liverpool as well. We seem to just keep going in for players that are just waiting for the bigger teams in the Premier League. It's to be a recurring theme for us. So centre back is a big issue. You look at fullback, Hall's coming back off a foot injury. He got some minutes against you in Korea. Our second best left back is our best right back in Tino. Trippier is somehow still at the club. So that's good, I guess. He's obviously like got a leadership role, but he's not going to produce the returns. Centre midfield, we sold Longstaff. Willock's now injured and permit injured, and there are allegedly things going on with him in terms of like his. I'm not going to talk about that actually. So he's out. As soon as you drop one of those three, we're down to Miley, who I think will have a good season again, similar to 2 years ago. He didn't really get a chance last year. So we've got four central midfielders. So we need another one, probably a
At
D,
least I'd say, mate.
DM. I think we need a DM. I think Miley can kind of, if you think about our midfield in terms of like three different positions, we definitely need a DM. Still don't have one. Never have had one under Howe. Tonali can play there, Bruno can play there, but I think releasing those two to play further up is better for us. Miley can kind of cover that central midfield, and then we really need like an attacking eight, I'd say, which is kind of where the Willock injury has come in, but we probably needed one anyway. So two central midfielders and at least two strikers. So another five players would be good, and we seem incapable of getting any over the line.
What's the problem? I keep hearing speculation that there's a real problem in terms of recruitment. It's Eddie Howe, you said, great manager, it's unquestionable. Has he got too much involvement in terms of what's happening here?
He's literally keeping this club together, it feels like at the moment. Um,
But is he
he
stopping you from progressing
ah,
in terms of transfers? Because I hear lots of speculation about is it his son or his brother is involved in many of the
Yeah, he's
talks
brother or
now, or
cousin or yeah. There's another how. Apparently, actually, is pretty good. I think there's always been, particularly since Staveley left, there is because the money comes from Saudi Arabia, so there needs to be the conversations and the way that those funds come in is a slow process. And the way typically that they will work as an investment fund as well is you almost have to go and like ask for it. So there needs to be a lot of strategic planning in place for like when you're going to actually access those funds. That's one thing. Two, there is no conduit or go between the club and PIF now. So Staveley obviously not being there, and it feels like since that key relationship was removed, there isn't been someone to be able to kind of have those conversations. Like Darren Eales has got health issues, but he's still at the club. He was the one that brought in Paul Mitchell, um, which Eddie Howe didn't know about. And Paul Mitchell's the reason that Isak wants to leave. So the front office is a complete mess. Um, and it just feels like there is there's either Eddie doing too much or he hasn't got the support network to be able to get like some of these deals over the line. And
you've
it's
had a
frustrating.
succession of like sporting directors, and they've been and
Yeah.
gone, and
Yeah.
it feels like Alanga
Been
feels like the first
bought
team
again.
signing you've made for like 3 years. Like, what's
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on?
Well, I think we were trying to get to a place with PSR where we wouldn't have to sell like any players, be forced to sell any players. And we're definitely in a better position now. But because of that, you've got the like you're one true world class elite level player has been here and has seen us not sign anyone for 3 seasons, 3 windows, and wants to leave. You can't really blame him for for wanting to find a more progressive club. And I think, the whole dream of this project is I wouldn't say slow dying, but it needs first of all like a big sale for us to get the cash injection to be able to spend it. And then it needs the team in place to actually go out and do those deals. I don't think talent scouting is an issue. I'm probably going to get pelters for this, but I do feel like Paul Mitchell, the strategy and his approach is what we should have done. We should have been more of a Brighton model of going out, filling out the squad, identifying good talent. Some of them will make it, some of them won't, and then we just get into that Chelsea pattern of churning players in and out. But we've tried to do the other way, which is go and sign all the big players, which all the other big teams want to sign, and we've just lost out on those deals because I don't know, it's Newcastle or we're in the Champions League, but it feels like we're just not. That there must be something going around the industry just that says like this club is not quite at it. Like no stadium, that's been promised for like 2 years, nothing on that. Training ground, absolutely nothing's been done with that. So our training ground, even though it was improved initially when PIF came in, is not up to scratch compared to the other 4 teams. And that stuff matters to players. And it feels like, it's really is time for them to kind of like show that they're committed to this project or we'll get out, I think.
Do you think they're not? Like it does. It feels it's weird because obviously you ended this massive trophy drought, brilliant scenes back at Wembley and obviously up at Newcastle. Club could probably at its happiest point. I'd say at that point, arguably ever in your lifetime.
Yeah, for sure.
And now, I don't know. It just feels really like cold and empty and almost. I daren't say it. Almost feels a little bit directionless at times. Like it doesn't feel like you've had the summer that we felt you should have. It was kind of labeled as in we knew you had trouble last year. We expected this summer, right? The PSR problems are over. And yet it feels like Newcastle fans are walking towards the new season deeply unhappy. That's the sense I'm getting.
I'd say deeply frustrated. We still got a good team,
Of course you
but
do.
this is the reality of PSR. Like if you look at what the likes of Man City and Chelsea could do in their first 5 years of getting their billionaire owners, they were hundreds of millions of pounds in debt, and it took that to be able to get them to a level where they were competing for league titles. We can't do that. Like this is what PSR was intended to do. It was intended for us to sell our best players to other teams in the league that can afford it, and for us to then take that money and go buy the best players in Europe or the emerging talent, and then just keep propping up the Premier League talent pool. And it's in effect, and you got to wonder whether like similar to even when Ashley came in, like he gave it a go for the first season and realized it was pointless, and then just didn't spend any money. Like, have they turned around and been like, well, getting into the Champions League is fine, and maybe we should just kind of do that and be happy with that, and maybe we don't need to build a training ground. But I don't know. I've worked with Middle Eastern, I've worked with Saudi companies before. Like this sort of shit is like they could literally turn up tomorrow and be like, "Here's 50 million, go build a training ground," and they'll knock it up in 2 weeks. And then
Not
they can
quite.
knock it down. They can knock it down again in a year's time. It's kind of what their mentality is when it comes to like investing and stuff. But I don't know. Maybe they've just looked at the landscape and been like, we can't beat this PSR, so this is kind of what we are now.
I,
We're aiming for
I,
Champions
I
League, and
think
that's
you
it.
can. I think you can, by the way. And the fact that, you're in the Champions League this year, Villa got in it last year, you got it in the year before. Like there is this close shot thing I don't really buy into. It can be done. The difficulty is in sustaining it. I keep saying, when people say to me as a Tottenham fan, when's the big six? Like not the big six anymore. Newcastle Villa should be included. The answer is unfortunately from the financial off the field side in terms of revenue generated in, there's still a way for Newcastle and Villa to go. It needs
What,
consecutive Champions League appearances,
what have Villa
is
done
what will
this
begin
summer?
to make a difference, in my opinion.
They're selling Ollie Watkins if they can. What else are they doing?
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah,
They
but
went for it last year and
yeah,
didn't get in.
they won't, and I understand the frustrations that your fans will have, and also Villa fans. Villa's cost in terms of what they spend on their wages against their revenues, it's too much. And you've openly admitted that basically you feel like you got your transfer strategy kind of the wrong way around. You said you should have gone
I think so.
progress kind of more building. And now because you've gone down this route, it's like, well, no one wants to sell Isak, no one wants to sell Gimrez, etc., etc. You found yourself a bit stuck basically.
Yeah, yeah. And it feels like the only way out of it is to sell one of our prized assets, have that cash flow. But that money from a PSR point of view is only it's only relevant for 3 years. You got to spend it, or else it drops off the books. So there's no good keeping our powder dry for 2 years, which is why like they are trying to do the deal first, and it kind of makes sense. So to come back to it, I think it in a weird sort of way, it might be our lack of competency that ends up keeping Isak. But I don't think it's a full time a long term thing. I think it's this summer or next summer or January, but. And I'd say 90% certain he'll go, and we will bring at least two players in to replace him because I think we need to.
What do you think happens if it's not Sesko? Any specific targets?
Uh,
Because I
the
mean,
joke is
Visser's name's been
DCL. The
mentioned.
joke is
Nick,
because
yeah, not DCL. Nicholas Jackson. I mean, you might as well just kept Wilson for that matter.
yeah,
Nicholas Jackson's name's been linked today as well.
yeah. I mean, why not help Chelsea out a bit more? So everyone else seems to. Yeah, he's good. I just like once you've like had a player like Isak in your team to then
No,
see
I hear
like
you.
Nicholas Jackson just
You have to get that out of your mind, right? Because I
yeah.
mean, Sesko is one of them rare ones that could come in and could be absolutely amazing. It's like I hear Tottenham fans all the time. Oh, Solanke's not Kane, though, is he? It's like, well, if you keep doing that, it's a bit unfair to start with, isn't it?
It is. It's hard. You know more than most, like you just said with Harry Kane. I honestly think Whistler's a fantastic player. I don't care about his age. I think the situation we're in, we need someone that's going to produce the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
And
because the
he's
different
definitely
the
that.
difference maker for you will be in the immediate. Get back in
Yeah.
that Champions League, and remember, I know most people at the moment
We're
think,
not
"Oh, the top four will definitely be the top four again." That
we're
might
not
be the
getting back
case.
in Champions League this year unless
It'll
we
probably be
make
fifth
quite a
again,
few
Si.
things. Seventh. I think we'll yo-yo back down to the Conference League and then hopefully win that. And then maybe Champions League next year with the Conference League. And then yeah. I think we're just going to do this dance for the
So you're going to be
next couple
like
of
a
years.
Champions League yo-yo rather than like a Burnley. You're going to be the top end of the league, Burnley, are you? Okay. Let's
If you
um
want.
let's talk about one player. Obviously, has come in. Anthony Elanga is a good signing, mate.
Yep. Yep.
What do you make of him?
Uh, that position since what 3 years ago when we said we needed an upgrade on Miggy has always been we need a goal scoring right winger, which is why Bumo seemed to be like absolutely perfect for us in terms of like that. But I mean, you can't argue with his goal involvement. It's just whether he can add the actual goals to the assists. But like, yeah, in terms of excuse me, in terms of like raw talent, credible. Like he is, I read, the most two-footed player in world football in terms of shooting with his left, shooting with his right. It's like 60-40. which is the most even split amongst everyone. So like yeah, genuine option, left, right, scary pace, stays fit. Um, just yeah, good solid Eddie signing. But I think if you take Isak's goals out, it's like whether that and like Murphy, to be fair to him, it's whether those two, whether the knock-on effect is Murphy then drops down. If Murphy can stay at the level he was at, and we can get production out of both of them on the right wing, um, I think it's a good signing. Yeah, happy.
Do
I
you think? Do
know
you
I heard
think?
Mark talking about him yesterday, and he was like
Yeah,
had good things to say.
yeah, yeah. Mark really rates him. Um, do you think been bought exclusively to play on the right? Because we've seen him operating central roles for Forest towards the end of the season. Certainly play off the left.
Um, in Eddie's system, I would say like we're probably still going to stick to a 4-3-3, unless Isak and we sign Sesko, and in which case it's 4-4-2, which would be very nice to see. No, you can play off the left, play off the right. I mean, at the moment, if you're asking me who's going to play in the middle, it's Gordon, game week 1. So I think predominantly we'll see him on the wings just because of Eddie's system and how he likes to play.
Yeah, I think as it would stand now, Anthony Gordon would start through the middle at Aston Villa, but and that will excite people. Oh, how OP. But how long that lasts is anybody's guess at the moment, isn't it?
It is, but I
And you
mean,
don't have
he'll be
fit
on
one minute
pen.
is not starting with you're not starting with two of the promoted teams where you think, oh, go and attack it. Like, it's Villa and Liverpool. And I realise actually those are two fixtures that could suit him. I totally get that actually. But I don't think you're going now. That's just booking in a transfer, isn't it? Possibly.
I mean, depending when you're going to wild card, how you're going to use your other chips, you're booking in a transfer anyway to get. It's just like eventually you're going to want to sign Newcastle players, but I get with all the turmoil and the first couple of fixtures why you'd want to avoid. But I mean, we're not going to not score goals,
No, of
so
course you will. And I guess actually to flip it back on its head, you could end up in a situation here where he plays as the nine, maybe, Villa away, Liverpool at home, and then goes back to left wing for Leeds away, Wolves at home. And
exactly.
it's
And if
perfectly
you
reasonable, I guess. So, I mean, I don't see many Newcastle assets knocking about in FPL teams at the moment, and I think
no,
that's understandable. If you were going in for Gordon, Murphy, Barnes scored a terrific goal against Tottenham last week.
yep,
Elanga, where would your money go at the moment? I suppose it can't be Murphy at this moment, can it? I suppose.
it would no. I think it'd have to be Gordon just because of he's going to play. He's going to play. He's going to start the season at number 9, and if he's not there, he's going to play on the left wing. And if he's not there, he was not warranted on last season's form, but by all accounts, he's kind of knuckled down. Has looked better in pre-season. Hasn't got any returns, but has started to look quite sharp. And I think as long as his head's in the right place, ironically, given the fact that he was linked with Liverpool last year, and he definitely had a bit of a down year. I would say like it's got to be Gordon to start the season, but I can understand why people would want to avoid, particularly if you're like bench boosting and stuff. But like as soon as that, we've got Leeds away in game week 3, Wolves at home, and then Bournemouth. So I mean, as a five, I don't know. I probably won't start with Newcastle asset just because I've been too negatively impacted by this summer. But they're going to be low owned, so and we're going to score goals. I can't see us not scoring at least one at Liverpool. We usually score at Villa, but I think probably will lose that game just with everything else that's going on. But yeah, so from an attacking point of view, you'll get returns.
Harvey Barnes, 14 attacking returns in 17 starts last season.
Well, that's what he does. He he's got end product. I think sometimes the rest of his game can be lacking, and if he's not in a game, the game can pass him by. But can't you can't argue with his return rate and this proven quality. It's I think with him, it's just is he going to ever get the confidence that he's like the main man? I think at times last season, because of Gordon's form and a few like niggling injuries and a few other injuries we had, he got that run of form. But I think even he knows that like realistically, he's not first choice on the left, but he will start there for the start of the season.
I suppose
And
that's the concern. Like we said, though, then Gordon could go back to the left and he's out the team. Eddie will generally favour Gordon. Would that be fair?
yeah, I think so. He's got more seniority, and based on what went on last season, I think there's sort of like an understanding that like he's not the with what's going on with Isak, he's not the player that we want to be like dicking around with and upsetting and pulling out the team. So unless he just doesn't perform, and then Eddie's got a reason to not pick him, but I think it'll be I think those two will start the season, and unless Barnes is banging goal after goal after goal and is undroppable, it only takes one bad game and he'll be back on the bench.
See yourself starting with Gordon or Elanga?
In FPL, no, I don't think so. I'm just and unless we sign Sesko and like the mood of the club rapidly changes and this Seller Cup that comes up where we're playing two Spanish teams, which unless something like drastically happens with the mood of the club, and I think actually there's something to attack there because everyone's going to avoid us. I'm not scared of the Liverpool home game week one. It's more Villa game week one than Liverpool game week two. Like I just think like the way it's going at the moment, we could get a bit of a slap in there.
Interesting. Let's talk goalkeepers. We spoke about yo-yoing. I mean, you don't really want to yo-yo that much, but you bought Aaron Ramsdale, and that's made a few people suspicious that maybe you might be in for a relegation fight, mate.
Again, I went for Trafford. That seems to be going on for a year and a half, and then like Burnley, fair play to Burnley, were clearly not wanting to part with the sell-on fee, so we're just holding out for Man City to come in, and they did, and and that was that. So I think he was very firmly like second choice. It's a loan with no option to
Yeah,
buy,
sorry, I should say you haven't bought him. It's a loan. You're right.
but but I think it does put the pressure on Pope, and there's a world I could see where like he will get in a team. I don't think he'll start. I think Pope is Pope's position to lose, but Pope is very capable of losing it.
Well, I don't suppose Aaron Ramsdale has joined you just to be number two, is he, in the World Cup? Yeah,
No, but he's joined from Southampton,
I
so
get that.
I think he's happy to be back in the Premier League, and I think he knows what he's walking into. Um, and I don't think he expects to start the season. I think he expects to be given every opportunity. So whether we start to see a bit of a Champions League rotation,
Maybe.
Pope is not getting any better with his feet, and even in pre-season we've seen it lead to some goals again. So it's only going to take
There was a
one
comical one at
rip.
Celtic I saw, wasn't there?
Yeah, but yeah, there was. But even within that game, he was taking like three touches just to pass it along his 6 yard line, and like we gave away stupid corners and stuff. So it's an issue, but at the same time, he can bail us out. Like he stopped that 1-on-1 with against Spurs, and
Yeah,
he's a good goalie. It's just it's there's going to come a point in this season where his flaws are exposed, and there's pressure to play Ramsdale, and Ramsdale will, aside from getting cup games, maybe get the Champions League ones. I don't know. So
interesting. So Pope number one until
to
something
start.
happens that makes that change. I'm just going to lace the question differently. Which of those two goalkeepers would be more likely to be in the England squad next summer?
Um, it's an interesting point. Probably Ramsdale, just because of his
Yeah,
with
it's
his feet.
interesting that,
I
isn't it?
think neither though. I think it's Pickford, Trafford. Now he's back at Man City if he
And
gets the
Henderson.
minutes, and then Henderson. I think that's pretty much a lock.
Yeah, okay. Word on, I take it Pope at five, no. Start. We haven't got a Ramsdale price yet, by the way, at time recording.
Uh, the one I'd most be interested in is Dubravka if he ends up going to
Well,
Burnley.
that was going to be my next question. So we think he's going to Burnley at time recording. So that's the Newcastle player you're most likely to own as it stands, is it?
Yeah. Remind me, last season, did he play at Spurs? I feel like he definitely has recently and maybe didn't keep a clean sheet, but there's definitely one game I remember him at White Hart Lane or whatever the new
Yeah, he
stadium's
played all of
called.
your Christmas period, didn't he? I can't
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah, the season before when Pope had his shoulder injury, yes, it would have been 2 years ago. He's if he goes to Burnley and he's going to start, I think that's a dream bench boost, bench
I
goalkeeper.
absolutely love this, by the way. Time recording, you've got two players owned by over 10%. Both of them might not be at the football club next week. It's Isak and Dubravka. So, yeah, but Dubravka would go to Burnley, be number one, wouldn't he? And yeah, we're very
Yeah.
interested.
Oh, he's not going anywhere, and that he's not going to be given that. He spat his dummy out when we bought Pope and went off to Man U on loan. So he's not going anywhere unless he's absolutely guaranteed to
Has he
start the
been involved
season.
in your pre-season, just out of interest?
A little bit, but he was
Yeah.
supposed to join up in on our Asia tour and just didn't. So yeah, he's not really
He
been
didn't get left
involved.
behind on the plane before it left, did he? Or
No, maybe I don't know. I don't know whose job it is to do the head count of players. It's probably Eddie's. He just to go around with a clipboard and make sure everyone's
yeah.
on the plane.
it's a bit different for a goalkeeper. Judging by the conversations I had with Jack earlier in the week, if he goes, he'll go straight in, I think. Um, let's have a little chat about some of the defensive ones.
Yep.
Hall and Sharon at 5.5. Lewis Hall's fit, isn't he? He's a bit behind,
Just
but he's
he
fit.
is. He got some minutes. I don't think he'll start the season first game. I
Okay.
think it will be Tino and Trippier. So Tino on the left. I think it's just I think he's just going to be a bit short. So he played not even 45 minutes. And we've only got two friendlies left, and it's the Cellar Cup where we play one team one day and then the next team the other day. So he might get a bit of minutes in both, but he's not quite there. So I don't think he'll start the season. I think it will be Tino and Trips.
Them two
Um,
not an option to start with, Hall and Share for FPL.
Horton Share in terms of the C-bit stuff is potentially the most interesting. He's obviously got a goal in him and he's going to be starting. So it's just that price, like five. I think they probably priced Newcastle defense a little bit high. We saw it 2 years ago. I think you can just run it back really and have a look at how we did when the Champions League rolls around. I think early season it's a time to invest. I think when the Champions League rolls around, we'll drop points, we'll concede goals. I just think it's a bit too expensive for me, 5.5 for a Newcastle defender, given the other options that are out there.
Okay. Of the 5.0s, I'm going to guess from what you said, maybe Dan Burn appeals.
Yeah, I think so. Botman's 4-5, so but he needs to be getting a run, and I think
He's
just
five,
given
so, but
is he? Oh, I thought he was
yeah,
four
he's five.
five. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, then if they're all five, then I think Dan Burn is again. I think it's a wait and watch with the C-bit stuff. If you look at where they were on the indexes for last season, none of them really kind of stood out, and they've not really been in any conversations that I've heard about people talking about you should get the centre back, the C bit. So I think it's a wait and watch on Newcastle defence. No one's picking them with those first two fixtures anyway.
No, but it is also worth saying there will be a group of people here who will bench boost game week one, free hit game week two, wildcard game week three. At that wildcard point, you're walking into Newcastle playing Leeds Wolves. And it might appeal really quickly. So I guess it's difficult for us to say now, and there might be some information from the first couple of games, but also on the defensive ones, because of what you've got in the first two games, there is a case here that someone like Share picks up back-to-back DEFCONs in the first two games because you're playing Villa Liverpool, doesn't necessarily tell us more about what happens afterwards. Though your
Yeah.
team is settled. So well, I think there's stuff that you could look at historically data-wise.
When's the transfer window end?
After
Between
game
which
week
games?
three.
Oh, okay.
But you
Interesting.
might have,
No one's
hopefully
starting,
for you,
but
have
I'm
business done by then. But
it's more the vibe around the club, I think. That's going to determine the start of our season massively. I mean, you saw the impact of what happened with Isak at Celtic. We started all right for 20 minutes, and then as soon as they scored, I know it's a pre-season game, but like that, it's happened before, like where we've had a bit of turmoil around the club, and it's impacted the players. So I think if it's not a happy camp going into game week one, I think we'll lose to Villa and potentially could lose quite comfortably. I think we'll get up for it at Liverpool and then probably get mugged off by something and end up with a score draw. And then like going into Leeds away, um, yeah, it's really hard to call at this point. I think you need to kind of judge it when you get there. Like it's an interesting approach. It could swing both ways and could be massive gains if you were to wildcard or pile a couple of transfers into Newcastle game week
well, I
three
mean,
and try
look,
and ride it out.
imagine it the other way around, right? You get the striker situation sorted. You add some depth. You beat Villa and Liverpool. You'd be sitting here during the international break telling me that you're going to win the league, wouldn't you?
I'd say we'll be top of the league until the Champions League rolls around, unless we get those five transfers in. Yeah.
I guess I mean, if you think back to the double you had, many of us would have been wanting to get obviously more than three Newcastle players. Generally, at the moment, it feels like largely it's just an avoid. So it does potentially bring the midfield three into the equation for interest because it doesn't feel like we're going to get blocked at the moment. I think it's probably fair to say. So do any of the midfield three, Joe Linton, Tonali, Gimres appeal at all?
Again, like surprisingly, not appearing on any of those defensive contributions and not in the conversations, but like they are. yeah, I think it's again a wait and watch. I think they're all. The problem is all three of them could. I think will just sort of share the goal contributions around. Joel
Joel Linton
Linton,
will cancel out his odd tackle def cons with yellow cards, won't
yeah, he'll do that. A few elbows flying around. I saw he tried to
he? You're right,
knock
caught my
Archie
boy
Gray's
Archie
teeth
Gray the
out.
other day.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to cry, bless him.
He's only a baby.
I, I always occasionally shout out Joe Linton, but he is, I think, for me, just like the way he plays is always a slight injury. He's only like one kind of looks like innocuous knee injury or like a knock, and he's out for like 3 or 4 weeks. It's hard to say at the moment. I think Bruno uh, I think Tonali will have a big season. I think last year he was obviously coming off his ban, played really well. I think just having not having that hanging over him, I think he could be in line for a really big season.
Yeah, I agree with
Whether that's
that because
goal,
he came back game week 3, came on as a sub against my team, not to Tottenham links here. But he wouldn't have been able to play pre-season, right? Am I right in saying that?
yeah, he couldn't play
He
any
would have
preseason
trained, but he wouldn't have
games.
played. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, correct.
So he's obviously playing through pre-season. So that should be a help. I like him. He's a good player. Yeah, I think he would be one to monitor at
They all are.
5.5 that might improve from a DEFCON perspective. So my analysis in conclusion here of Newcastle FPL assets, unbelievably, is that the best asset is Lewis Miley. But it's 4.5 midfielder, and as it stands, he's going to get minutes today off the bench, admittedly.
Off the bench. He's such a graceful player that I don't think you're getting. It's what are you going to get out of it? I don't know if you're going to get like the. I mean, in the minutes you won't get the C-bit stuff. At some point, we will have an injury and he will play, and at that point, he's the one to go for. So, like, if you wanted to bet, if you weren't wild carding early and you wanted to bet that like one of those three will go down, he's getting game time and he has the capacity to produce end products. So I think, yeah, actually, I'd probably agree with you in terms of squad structure. If you're not bench boosted, Lewis
That's a
Miley.
that's an absolute state. I've got some bad news for you, Si. I don't think he's the best 4.5 million midfielder in the game, though. So
Who
I
is?
can't. I can't. The only Newcastle player I can see myself starting with is Dubravka, mate.
Fine. I'm not like, yeah. I think last season was a bit more fun. I was shouting out. We had Southampton game week 1, and I was shouting out my free picks. And this year, I've just, yeah, no one's picking Newcastle to start the season. I think unless Sesko comes in which case you all that percentage will just be like Geordies wanting to have a bit of fun.
Yeah, but I think monitor the first couple. For those who want a wild card game week 3, will want to look, and for someone who's intending to wild card in game week 13, my vision at this moment right now is that by the time I get there, mate, I'll have 3 Newcastle. Because your Christmas period is absolutely outstanding, mate. That you're one of the key reasons looking at game week 13 that people are picking it out. And within your club, there will be enablers that can fit in with some big boys from sort of City, Liverpool as well. I imagine I will be owning Alexander Isak at that period, but I just don't know for which club at this moment. So, give me a predicted game week 1 team then. I mean, it probably speaks for itself, but go on.
Okay, Pope and goal, left back, Tino, centre backs, Burn, Schar, right back, Trippier, midfield three, Joe Linton, Bruno, and Tonali, and then front three, Barnes, Gordon, and Elanga.
I didn't think you were going to say anything different, mate. Other than a little caveat that I wouldn't deem Elanga a definite starter. I think for that fixture at Villa, I wouldn't be surprised if Murphy played.
I thought about that. I would say like if you were going to give me percentages, he would be probably so I'd say like 100, well, near enough 100% on all of them. Trippier would be slightly less just because Hall might play 90 minutes in the Stella Cup and just be ready to go, but I doubt it. Osula has looked capable, just hasn't. I think he's not there yet to be like the main striker and have that pressure on him. I think coming off the bench is what he should really be third choice striker and getting minutes that way. Yeah, I could see like Murphy potentially starting. They both scored once in pre-season. Neither of them have kind of really set the world on fire. But then we've been very cautious with our minutes So yeah, I just don't think it matters that much because no one's going to be picking them
No,
against
true.
Villa
But I
away.
also think there's a reminder here, because I'm certain you will make some additions over the rest of this month. Historically, I'm thinking of examples here like Sven Botman. Like, when's he playing? When's he playing? You've notoriously, since Eddie Howe come in, been very cautious with bringing new players into the team immediately. And I think those who are considering Elanga should be very careful of it. But yeah, ultimately, unbelievably, I wouldn't have believed I would be saying this going back 2 months, but I don't think there's a Newcastle player to consider it at the moment.
I concur.
But there will be soon. Si, thank you very much. Anything you want to plug before we finish, my friend?
Just Patreon chat and the fact that you got done by Frank Chip in there has just made it definitely the place that you should be spending your time. If James is going to
I
pop
love
in and
it.
not understand the Newcastle crack, it's a good place to be.
Uh, yeah, the problem is we're about to talk about your ITKs. No one knows what's true and what's not. We'll talk about that on after the podcast. Thank you, Si. Next up, in correspondent week, Newcastle might not be buying any players, but this lot always bloody do. It's Gary Mantle on Chelsea. Thanks, Si. Good luck for the season, my friend. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.